morning. I, Dr. Femina Khalid, on behalf of Lloyd Business School, welcome our eminent speakers, Ms. Alkananda Misra, Assistant Vice President HR from Genpact, and Ms. Mehrnaz Zahir, Principal Consultant from Altair Analytics, faculty members, and all the students who have joined this webinar for the panel discussion on employability insights for young managers, influence of social media. Lloyd Business School constantly strives to build knowledge for its young managers by bringing industry expertise to classroom learning in order to bridge the gap between academia and industry requirements. In order to abreast the students and the future managers with the latest developments in the corporate sector, Lloyd Business School has taken this initiative of series of panel discussion, which is called Employability Insights for Young Managers. We successfully conducted our first panel discussion on the topic of startup versus corporate jobs, and later on learnings from our alumni. Today, we are pleased to announce to have this discussion on influence of social media on employability. In the past few decades, we have witnessed a revolutionary change in the way people use social media and its transformation from being a mere platform to update personal news and pictures to a medium where hiring, recruitment, and training have become a reality, and a forum where your opinions and views can be heard. Without much ado, I would like to introduce our guests and move to the panel discussion to understand the influence of social media. We are very much honored to have with us Ms. Alkananda Misra, who is a gold medalist in MBA, specializing in human resources from Xavier Institute of Management. Alkananda Misra ma'am has held a university position and scholarships during her MSc Zoology and PSc Zoology from Miranda House, Delhi University. She is also the recipient of a diploma in environmental law from Worldwide Fund for Nature and is currently working with Genpact as Assistant Vice President, Human Resources. She's a talent and change management human resource specialist with more than 15 years of experience in the IT industry, skilled in employee relationship management, HR cultural transformation, policy and process custodianship, change management, communications, and design of comprehensive HR solutions that sustain key business requirements. Alkananda ma'am has been associated with the social sector at the beginning of her career, about which she is really proud of, by working on an UNDP project on solid waste management. She enjoys guiding and counseling students in their career decisions, and her passion lies in writing and music. She, in her leisure time, she really likes to read poetry, biographies, and fiction, and exploring world cinema. Welcome to the panel discussion, Ms. Alka. We have with us today, we are really honored, Lloyd Business School, to have with us today Ms. Mehrnaz Zahir, who has worked in diverse sectors, including the education, manufacturing, financial sectors for the past 3 decades. At present, she is the principal consultant at Altair Analytics, a boutique firm that provides team development trainings and leadership coachings. Prior to that, she was associated with Pearson VUE as the director for human resources, Asia Pacific region, and earlier as the HR manager for Southeast Asia for Elsevier Incorporation. Meher ma'am holds a master's degree in social work and diploma from Jamia Millia Islamia in training and development. Having attended basic and advanced human labs conducted by ISAPS and the forum conducted by Landmark Worldwide, she leverages the insights of self-awareness to organizational transformations, developing high-performing teams, and developing innovative people solutions that drive the business results. She's an expert in training and design and its facilitation. She's also certified by the International Coach Federation. Meher ma'am is an avid reader and loves to trek in mountains. Welcome to the panel discussion, Ms. Mehrnaz. Lloyd is so much proud to have both of you here. You have been on the panel with Lloyd, both of you, Ms. Alkananda Mishra, as well as Ms. Mehrnaz Zahir, and you have been taking up sessions with the students, which have been really insightful. And we are very happy that with our new batch of PGDM students and the prospective students We are really happy to have you and listen to your thoughts on social media today. So without much ado, we'll begin the panel discussion. And my first question goes to Alkananda ma'am. Ma'am, you know, there's a famous quote from Brian Solis. I was going through this internet and I just found this a famous quote which says that social media is about sociology and psychology more than technology.
Wow.
So it, it really took, I got my eyes. So the young minds are so much well versed in the technical aspect of social media handling. However, there's still a lack of understanding for posting sensitive information on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So according to you, Alkananda ma'am, what are the do's and don'ts of handling social media? It'll be really nice if you can throw light on that.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be sharing this platform with you, Ms. Meher, and thank you again, Femina, for this lovely, Dr. Femina, for this lovely opportunity. And I think I'll just echo Ms. Meher's views on it was slightly embarrassing, but thank you for the lovely introduction and just giving us this platform to interact with these, like you said, bright young minds, right? So fun fact, okay, since you started on a quote, interestingly, again, while I was doing the research, June 30th is interestingly the World Social Media Day. I didn't know this, okay? So this was launched by Mashable. This is more like a fun fact before we start the session. Mashable is basically a global multi-platform media entertainment company. So on June 30th, which is just 5 days away, it was born to recognize the power of social media on how it's impacting the global communication and how it's bringing the world together, right? So that's something that was interesting. So I just thought I'll kind of mention that. And then interestingly, some data points, okay? I will not bug everybody with a lot of data, but important to have these figures in mind. 16 to 24-year-olds, okay? 95% of that group is now on social media, okay? Across age groups, approximately 2.5 hours is what, or 144 minutes to be precise, is what we spend on social media. That's the minimum time per day, mind you. Again, Summit Search Group and Career Builder, they did this research which says, coming to where we are kind of having this discussion today, we live our lives on social media in some way or the other, right? It's our persona on Twitter or Insta, and especially the young generation, most of the people who are attending this webinar do spend a significant time on social media. So just again, some figure that was interesting, that today 70%, according to the survey of employers, they mine the social media, right, to understand profiles of prospective employees. Out of those, and 25%, the rest of them, the 30 or 25% of the companies are thinking of getting onto social media. And that's the way forward now. Of which 57%, these 70 or 75% of companies have said that 57% times they have actually gone and hired people who they have tracked on social media and have found them suitable. Okay. And 47% of them are kind of skeptical if they don't find a social media footprint. So what the outcome of this is, you need to have a social media presence, but it should align with the company culture that they are hiring for. So those were some interesting facts, data points that I came across and set me thinking, how important you showcasing yourself on social media is. Now coming to your question on do's and don'ts. Again, broadly, companies, from again outcome of a lot of these research and a lot of these discussions that are happening, about 50% of them who track social media most of them, about 50% of them, really do not look at a profile if there are inappropriate content on the social media. It can be pictures, it can be past pictures or write-ups from student days, could be a wild partying night out. In fact, discriminatory posts, about 30% of them see if the person has written any discriminatory post. So that leads to the unconscious biases that a person holds, right? So those are kind of things which are big don'ts on the social media. Do's, if I come to, and I'll elaborate a little more, I'll take about 5 minutes, is just to give you a sense of what the social media kind of throws at prospective employers. So people who are the do's on the social media are, if you convey a professional image, if you convey a well-rounded image, okay, you convey an image that kind of aligns with the company's culture. That is what are the do's that the prospective hirers or the prospective companies, employers, if they look at that and they just Google your name. So the best way to check what your social footprint is, just put your name and Google it. See what the internet throws up, because that is what social media screening, which is a part of the background check verifications companies that run after making an offer to you, is what the companies do. These are paid services. They have better tools, they have better methodologies of doing it, but the simplest way of doing it, just going and Googling yourself, right? So those are some very broad do's and don'ts. And if I have to, like, kind of elaborate a little more, right, from a perspective of what are the no's or don'ts that you should be taking care of, really sharing confidential information of a company. Suppose, for example, most of these or the students on the call right now are doing internships, I presume, or are looking for internships. Sharing, if they've got a letter, or they've got a letter, their friend has got a letter, putting that letter or the contract on social media and just showing that, look, I got an internship offer. That is sharing confidential information on social media. Big no. Okay, it could be showcasing how nice, what a great job you've landed. It could be showcasing how not a great job it is, how the pay is not good. Whatever it is, it's a confidential proprietary document of an organization. So putting that on social media, a big no. And let me tell you, when I say social media footprint, companies are, when they are Googling you, they are going to your LinkedIn, they are going to, and LinkedIn, I know Ms. Meher will be talking about it in detail. But yeah, although 50% of them go to LinkedIn, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all are these platforms are also being tracked, because they want to see who the real you are, right? Plagiarism is calling somebody else's work as yours. Please make sure, if you are putting something, some kind of a research, some kind, like I gave you data, that's not my data. I pulled it out from a research career builder. If you Google it, you'll find it. So give credit to the source. Those are, if you don't do that, that's a big no, right? So putting anything on the resume which you are posting anywhere, or any kind of post that you're saying it's your thought process, which is not, it's a big no, because that's going to be tracked. That is trackable on the internet. Posting not truth or information which is not true, that is again a big don't. No brainer, right? These are all commonsensical. So that is definitely a big no. If you post, like I said earlier, young group, having parties is fine, but really going and posting any inappropriate picture, of course, not saying don't post party pictures. Treat social media the way you would treat your office break room, very simply put, right? So pictures which do not put you in a bad light, right? Alcohol use, drug use, cyberbullying, using profanity on social media. Cyberbullying is a big thing. It just shows the person you are, and these are, mind you, becoming policies, unconscious bias, integrity. All of these are critical to every company. Now the CEO of a company is called Chief Empathy Officer. You have a Chief Listening Officer in companies. So these are things that are tracked, and these are like a dampener to a prospective employer if they see this kind of a footprint, and it can be through the years, right? So first, the other don't is, to sum it up on the don't pieces, self-marketing yourself. Don't brag too much about it. Whatever you've done, just be yourself and be consistent. So just an example, you hear this webinar or you read up somewhere that, social media, and you had And then you think, oh, let me go just erase my social media away. Everything will be gone. I'll be safe. Don't do that. Erasing social media also puts a question mark saying suddenly this person disappeared. And let me take you back when I started. I said 47%, 57% really employers see wonder if you don't have a social media presence. That's also abnormal, right? So those are a couple of don'ts that we should be all careful of. It's not just you, it's all of us, right? Then posting on controversial topics, right? Political views, biases, everything. Just be careful of what you are, what kind of posts you're liking, what kind of posts you're following, right? All of this shows up in the feeds. Uh, Posting, most importantly, posting during work hours, we should refrain. We should avoid that during college hours, work hours. That shows that it's good to be active on social media, but it has to be, it should not take away your dedication, your commitment, your time investment from the time that you're supposed to give to an organization or an institution, right? So those are a couple of don'ts that you should be. And again, a no-brainer. Anything opposite of that are the do's. So very, very quickly summing it up, I don't want to take away time from Ms. Meher from throwing more light on how LinkedIn and all these social medias can actually be mined. What we should do is just be careful. And it's not about you posting. Dr. Femina, the interesting part is the content a person can be tagged into. So one needs to be very careful. What is the privacy? It's always good to assume that anything that we put on social media is public. However, go ahead and see your profile. Your profile is in the private mode. Keep a tab on who is tagging you on what topic, on what pictures. All of that, be very, very careful, because even if you are not following it, you do not have that mindset, just getting tagged and having that in your feed will make a perception. And a perception in an employee's mind then says, okay, not fit for the company's culture, not hireable, right? So just stick to what kind of content you want to show yourself as, and do not be fake on the social media. Whatever is your liking, your inclination, obviously would want to get into that kind of an organization, right? So be yourself, keep a tab, just see that it should not have any of the don'ts, that refrain from being not really doing the don'ts that I mentioned. Of course, Google yourself, very, very important. And then later on, as this discussion progresses, probably I'll give you a little more, a couple of examples from real life, but these are a couple of do's and don'ts, which I should also be careful of. And I think it's important each one of us should be. So broadly, did that answer, Dr. Femina? Or
yes, certainly. Thank you so much for giving your inputs on what the students should do and what they should not do while handling social media platforms. So I'm sure they learn from this and of course follow it for better placements and for better opportunities and to have a better perspective in the employer's mind. So as you said, Alka ma'am, that 57% of the employers devote time on looking at the social media profiles, and especially I'm sure it must be LinkedIn on which they would be looking up the profiles of the candidates while hiring them. So my next question goes to Ms. Mehnaz, and I would like to ask you, Ms. Mehnaz, that people and students who are very young right now, and they are using social media platforms like LinkedIn. They are not aware about the plethora of opportunities that these platforms can bring for them. So can you throw some light on how to handle such platforms like LinkedIn? Over to you, Ms. Meher.
In fact, many young people, the kind of people who are attending our session today, while they have their presence or they have their accounts on Facebook and Twitter and Insta, but many of them do not yet have a LinkedIn profile because they think that, they're still students and they're not professionals. They don't have work experience. So if they create a LinkedIn profile, what will they write in that? Whether they will have enough material to put in there, or should they even be having a LinkedIn profile or not? So my advice to all those students out there watching this session, and for through them to their friends, is that you're never too young. If you're already in college, then you're not too young to have a LinkedIn profile. You can start your LinkedIn presence right now. And in fact, it's a platform that gives you a boost in your career. It is the start of where you start building your connections. Your networking starts here as you are building your career, or as you're aspiring to pick up a job or even internship. So this is that platform. LinkedIn is as an opportunity to build your professional brand. Just as at Insta you're connecting with your friends, and you're showcasing your partying activities, where you're going, your travel and everything. LinkedIn is the platform which helps you start creating a professional image of you. So create a LinkedIn profile, put in your academic details, put in your internships, any interesting projects you have done. It doesn't always have to be the companies that you work with. Simply a profile can have their academic background, the internships they have done, or even in school and college, any project that you think is very good to showcase your talent, your skills. Put it out there. Employers, even when they are recruiting freshers, will look at that. It's your living CV. Take it like that. It's a living profile. So what you write in your CV, it talks about your academic details, percentage, marks, and stuff like that. But a LinkedIn profile also shows your connections. It also shows who are the people you are following, which are the leaders you are following, what groups have you joined. Once you start exploring LinkedIn, you will see that it is offering you a lot of opportunities to become part of something much bigger than your immediate social circle, immediate college group, and professors and teachers that you have in college. It opens up the doors to a whole professional world. Incidentally, despite the popularity of Insta and Facebook, not only LinkedIn is the oldest social networking platform, it is still the biggest. As of now, it is still the biggest, with 700 million users that you have on LinkedIn. So imagine you have immediate access to such a huge professional database. So use that. But there's a caution, like Ms. Alka has mentioned, about do's and don'ts of social media usage, and what you post, what you don't post, how you post. Similarly, for LinkedIn, when you are having access to such a huge database of professionals, it's important that you choose your connections to, who you're connecting to. They're not just, kind of name dropping that you send random requests. Think about how many connection points you have with a specific individual, and only then send a request. So it's not important that you have number of followers. It's important that those followers or those connections that you have, they are they're meaningful. They actually relate to you. They are someone who you can be reaching out for recommendations, people who can actually provide you access to the professional world. So LinkedIn gives you that platform. LinkedIn helps you do that. And like Ms. Alka had mentioned, that a lot of companies, when they are hiring, they go to LinkedIn to look up the profiles. So they would use LinkedIn for looking up profiles as well as posting jobs. So when you are having a profile on LinkedIn, it also helps you in a job search. So when you create a LinkedIn profile, you're not just creating a professional network, you're also creating opportunities for yourself where you can do a relevant job search. So do that, create a profile. And like we have mentioned earlier, both Ms. Alka and has also mentioned, and I just touched upon that create a profile which is rich, which is meaningful, which is relevant, but only put in things which you have been doing. Don't just put for the sake of putting. So your profile on LinkedIn doesn't have to be lengthy, but it has to have depth. And these days, we have such a beautiful opportunity of doing certifications and courses sitting right at home. Sometimes they are free and sometimes you have to pay a nominal amount, and they're not expensive, 300, 400,000 bucks. Do certifications which are relevant for the career path that you have chosen for yourself or the career path that you are thinking of exploring. Go in, do certifications. It helps you develop those skills, and it also helps create a profile for recruiters to look at that, yes, this individual has. And that is where the recruiters would see a difference between you as the right candidate amongst the hundreds that they possibly have. So maybe we can talk a little more about this, later in the session, of how much of importance companies put on hiring through LinkedIn. But it's right now, suffice to say that having a LinkedIn profile gives you a beautiful access to the professional network and your professional career.
Thank you so much, Meher ma'am, for throwing light on how to create a LinkedIn profile. And if any of the students is having any apprehensions, I'm sure it would be gone, and they'll start creating their LinkedIn profile if they haven't as yet. And those who already have, they can make changes. And as Ms. Meher has pointed out, that one has to be very honest in what they put on the LinkedIn profile. And most of the employers these days look at the LinkedIn profile to hire the candidates. In line with this, my next question goes to Alka ma'am. Alka ma'am, you have been into corporate for such a long time, and you have worked with multiple domains. And can you just tell the students, as a recruiter and as an employer, like what all aspects you look for in candidates, and does social media like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter has a bearing on their professional lives?
I just first of all want to say that whatever Ms. Meher said, it's so on point. On learning, she spoke about learning. She spoke about, I think both of us are kind of said the same thing on how your presence on social media, on everything that you like, post, anything that you follow, like Ms. Meher just mentioned, just shows who you are. Today, to answer your question, Dr. Femina, is today companies, gone are those days when you were something from 9 to 5 and then you were something 5 onwards, right? Gone are those days. Now, and I kind of keep mentioning this when I keep hearing from people, there's no work-life balance. No, there is nothing called work-life balance anymore. We should all get used to the fact that now we have work-life integration. It is us who will prioritize it. The world has moved very positively. The working world or the corporate world has moved into a zone of flexibility. Work from home, before the pandemic or 5 years back, could we even imagine everybody working from home? And that happened like what? In 3 days, max 1 week, the world was working from home, right? So that is something that we need to be very, very, how dynamic and volatile environment we are in, and how much we are now virtually connected, right? So as a recruiter today, the simple answer to your question, Dr. Femina, is I get a name, I will go put it on Google. And Google opens the world. Although it's just about 1/5 or 1/10 of the entire internet, there is something called dark web and everything. But imagine if 1/10 of the internet throws everything about the person, how much control I have to know the person in and out. So my idea of saying that today work-life integration, which means we need to be true of what we are, because the companies are now hiring. And going with my experience, I like to see the job skill role is all acquired. There are skills are divided, and this is a little HR gyan that all of you, all the students would have already gotten and would know more than me. It's been ages that I've left books, but in the sense in the classroom. So some skills we have and some skills we acquire. As a HR professional, and I'm sure Ms. Meher will agree with me, is we today like to see what attitude the person brings to work. Skills can be learned. Skills, if we do certification, we learn, we pass degree courses, we can do it. But do we have the intent, right value system to be fitting into the company's culture? That is what the in social media footprint shows us. And as recruiters, we'll exactly what Ms. Meher said, or what I previously mentioned, is we will see what kind of a person you are, what kind of biases you carry, what kind of value system you have. Has there been any kind of a political debate where a person has used profanities, or a person has kind of gone ahead and probably borderlining on something called bullying? Cyberbullying is a big problem these days, right? So all those kind of things will definitely be a put off. Okay, this guy, okay, this person might not be the right fit. Not saying that it will take away. So today, let me tell you, today for a position, on an average, 100 CVs come in. And this is just a figure I'm just throwing from my personal experience on a daily basis, when I talk to my recruiters, what I hear. So the screening, and I was doing this mentoring session with a couple of students from your institution. I mentioned it to them. And again, this is research based. It's exactly 8 seconds that on an average a recruiter spends on a CV. 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gone. I counted, and this is the time I spent as a recruiter on a CV, right? So CV is something I'll glance for skills. But you know what the recruiter does next? Okay, the CV is okay, let's interview comments come in. In the meanwhile, the recruiter is going and checking so and so, enter Google. So I see Instagram, I see social media, I see Facebook, I see LinkedIn. LinkedIn, again, I'll leave it to Ms. Meher, and she's absolutely correct. 50 to 60% of the employers go to LinkedIn first. It's the first go-to. And then, of course, Facebook, Twitter, all of this, Instagram, and everything comes in. So yes, recruiters do go and mine data from all these. And physical one-on-one, it lasts for 30 minutes, 1 hour. That is something that everybody understands is what you want to show yourself as. But unconsciously, what you are as a person, real person, is what your social media footprint throws at you. So those are things definitely employers are now going and looking at, Dr. Femina. And like Ms. Meher said, if you need to have a LinkedIn profile, if you don't have it. And again, like she said, very important, I'm repeating what she said, because those are, I'm absolutely aligned, and I'm a big, sponsor of that integrity. No matter what you are, whatever you have done, whatever you have not done, be yourself. Be truthful of all the information that you're putting on your professional front, right? Personal, obviously, no comments. Just be careful of what you are putting on personal side, what you are getting tagged to. And I'll not repeat what I mentioned earlier, but be careful of that. But on a professional front, very important to be, integrity is non-negotiable in companies. You might be the best work performer. You might be the best, like thousands of endorsements for you. You might be the topper in your college, in your school. But if there is an integrity issue, no second thought. It is non-negotiable. And it's a big, it's like a black mark on your career, right? So integrity, I leave this piece of the session with that for you to think as students, that integrity, no matter what, is non-negotiable. That is something we should all stick to. And yes, social media definitely plays a role. So use social media to not impress people, but to impact people. Okay, so there's a thin line. So
you have given real life examples, like how students cannot get away from their personal lives, even if they are working, even if they have a professional life. They just cannot skip from being visible from the social media. They just cannot erase anything that we have put once on the social media. And of course, integrity and honesty is one thing that leaves a great mark on the minds of the employer, and they look for students, the prospective employees, as honest people. So that is also there. And therefore, my next questions on similar lines would be to Meher ma'am regarding LinkedIn. As Meher ma'am, you yourself has more than 30 years of experience in diverse sectors, and I would like you to elaborate from the perspective of an employer and recruiter on the key factors that you look for in a candidate's LinkedIn profile specifically, because Alka ma'am has already thrown light on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, which one cannot get away with. And if you can also throw light from your experience.
And before that, I would just want to kind of reiterate and say what Ms. Alka just mentioned about the employees having skills, but whether they have the attitude which is right or which is resonant with the company that is looking at them as a prospective candidate. So the students who are coming from HR background or who would be studying HR as a subject, one of the things that HR teams do is, do the skill and will mapping. So people who are high on skill but low on will are no go. So you have to have a high will. Will is the right attitude to work, the willingness to learn, the willingness to imbibe the company's values and become part of the culture that the company is promoting. So if you have those, the company will be willing to spend money in equipping you, in upskilling you. But if the attitude is missing, if that willingness is missing, if that right, what would say the right content in the individual is missing, which makes them a good employee, there's no amount of upskilling, no amount of training that will help. So companies lay focus on that. And coming back to what companies do when they look at LinkedIn for hiring, is kind of a similarity there, that the same things are being looked for in the prospective candidates on the LinkedIn profile. So when you put down in your CV what kind of work you've done, what kind of projects you have been participating in, what kind of skills or certifications you have, LinkedIn profile is also used by recruiters to see whether there's a kind of similarity in what you are showing on your profile, people that you're connecting with, the kind of comments you are making. So again, at the the repetition of what Ms. Alka has said, the posts that you do, the things that you comment on your profile, especially on LinkedIn, shows the employers, prospective employers, whether you are actually doing what you are claiming on your CV. So one thing is putting on your CV the socially acceptable, the right things which an employer is looking for. But then when you go to your social media things, especially LinkedIn, are you posting on hot topics, the politics, the religion, or any discriminatory post are you doing? Because when you are doing that on your, so to say, personal life space, it is bound to come and reflect on your work life. So there's no distinction, no demarcation between what I am as a professional and what I'm as a person. There's always an overplay. So why hire someone who tomorrow may become a problem employee for me because of their biases, the unsaid biases, the unconscious biases. So right at the time of hiring, let me screen out those potential people who will not gel or who will not fit in with my company culture. So as there's a very common saying, when in doubt, candidate out. So recruiters would rather not hire people who will not be the right fit in the company's culture. And in fact, I can share with you one very specific example. When I was working with one of my earlier organizations, we had a candidate, and my recruitment team brought that to me, that this is a candidate marked by the manager as the best candidate of the 4 potential candidates they had identified for a job offer. Unfortunately, that particular candidate was connected on LinkedIn with another individual who was identified as on the blacklist as someone who helped other candidates give proxy testing. So I'm sure these days people are aware of online testing, and this company that I was working with at that time, they were in online testing. So for them, this integrity that Ms. Alka had mentioned earlier was very important, very high ethics, no proxy testing, nothing. So here this particular candidate was not doing anything, but the very fact that this candidate was connected to a person who was known for proxy testing made him a no-go candidate. So despite being the number 1 candidate on the list, we dropped that candidate. So that is how important it is, your the social media presence, not just the kind of profiles that you create, but also the kind of connections you are displaying. what Ms. Alka had previously said, that your privacy settings are important as well. So it's not just what you post, but even the kind of things that you get tagged in. So this is an example of how a recruiter would actually drop a profile because they think this could be a potential issue in future for my company. So it's important that you have your whole thing mapped out very properly, put in right things, follow right people, do right posts, which will take you forward in your professional career rather than just simply randomly reaching out to people and creating a big network or big connection list saying I am connected to 200 people or 1,000 people. Doesn't matter. Are you connected to the right people? So I hope that answers the question you asked, Dr. Femina.
So it is the right connections that are important rather than the number of connections. So quality is more important than the quantity. So certainly, and we can take up some questions from the students if because one of the students just now wrote to me that he wanted to ask a question. So it'll be really nice if we can answer the question of the students.
Sure.
So meanwhile, I would like to ask Alka ma'am. Oh, we have a question here. So let us just take up the question from Yogesh. So Yogesh is asking that, ma'am, my first question is if someone doesn't post anything related to social political issues on their Twitter and Instagram and only their personal pictures and videos, nothing offensive, but not anything social or political, does that also impact? So this question, I think, Alka ma'am, you can take up this question.
So Yogesh, good question. It's what you mention is if the post is neutral, if I have understood your question correctly, that's fine. See, the idea is not to, let me just kind of reiterate that it is not only your, a recruiter will not go and necessarily look for a trend in your social post. It should be something which starkly doesn't stand out negatively. Let me put it in very simple English. Starkly, there should not be any other, any negative connotation which is coming out of your post. So to your question, if you are not putting anything, if as a person you are a neutral person, you don't have any very strong views against a social or political issue, it's fine. That's absolutely no negative impact. That's fine. So that just gives you a green tick from a recruiter's point of view. I hope that answers your question. And if on the other side, I'll extend it a little bit if I'm sure students have a follow-up on this one. If you have a very strong social or political view, just make sure you are not offensive. India, it's a free country, it's a democratic country. People as citizens, and you are our future of the country. You can post, but just make sure it's done. And debates, the way you will debate in a public forum, always know that whatever you put on social media is public. So you need to be respectful. You need to use the right words. You need to just share, if you have to, share it in a very respectable way so that it is not taken as it's not offensive from a language perspective, if that answers your question. Okay, so you are okay, it's okay to express yourself, but just make sure of the do's and don'ts that I mentioned. I don't want to repeat that, but yes, just get common sense when you're posting. If you just apply your common sense, and if you are in doubt, ask, reach out. I posted that in the chat also. Reach out to your teachers, reach out to your managers, or anybody who's like, if you look up to your mentor, ask when in doubt. If you are doubtful, don't post, because what you post is out there. You might delete it, but somewhere or the other, it gets stored. So when you Google it, it throws up, right? So that's the longish answer to your short question.
Wonderfully answered, Alka ma'am. I hope it answers the question what the student asked, and others' doubt would also be clear. We have many questions coming up, but due to paucity of time, we cannot take much questions. But one question from Meher ma'am, there's this question which someone has asked, that how to connect with people who have privacy, like it's their connection is logged. So can we do anything about it? And one more question which is relevant to this, what Alka ma'am has just now spoken, is that what if someone is not at all connected on any social media platform? So, Ms. Meher, can you take up this question?
Sure. So let me take the second question first. So if you do not have a social media presence, well, it's nothing wrong with that. But remember that in today's digitally connected world, people will think why you don't have a social media presence at all. So even if you are not on Instagram or Facebook, but you are looking at building your career. So professional networks, why are you staying away from them? Are you not computer savvy? Are you not in sync with the times? Now, is that the kind of impression you want to leave with the prospective employers? I'm sure not. So even if you are not active on social media, creating a LinkedIn profile is like creating a CV. So saying that I want to work and I want job offers, but I don't want to create my CV. So saying no to a LinkedIn profile is like that. But remember, Facebook and Twitter and Insta, these are all also now not just limited to social interactions. These are also now professional networks as well. Majority of companies have LinkedIn pages as well as Facebook and Insta presence as well. So don't be spending 2 hours or 3 hours like some do, but keeping a profile there, at least on LinkedIn profile, because it is a very known professional platform. Creating a profile there definitely helps you. So I would suggest that even if you have no other social media presence, but be present on LinkedIn, be connected through LinkedIn, and you don't have to post. You simply can create a profile there and follow people. The people that you're following, comment on what they are doing, affirmative comments, affirmative posts, like, congratulating somebody on their work anniversary, or simply, appreciating the work they have done and they have posted about it. That also is good enough, So you don't have to talk about every issue that is being discussed on national TV these days to be seen as a socially active person there. But having some level of media presence, social media presence is good for your career. Now, the first question that you asked, how to reach out to people or how to create connections with people whose settings are, privacy settings are restricted. So there are two ways of going about it. One is you go to them directly, and one is you go to them through someone that first and second or third level questions. And sometimes if you really want to connect with that person, you can send them an email. There's a provision of in-mail that you can send to the, of course, it's a paid service, and there are restrictions to the number of emails that you can send, but you can send them, and you will be able to connect with them. But remember, if the person has set their settings as private, that means that that person is very particular about the people that they show up, that show up as their connections. So unless you really have a connection point, you will not be able to make much headway, and your email will simply go waste. So be careful about and be discreet in choosing who you reach out to. But there are these two ways of reaching out to people, through in-mail and through your second or third level connections to the people that you want to connect to, but have their privacy settings as restricted. I hope that answers the question of the person who put that question up.
Very well said, Meher ma'am. And I think those students who have not created their LinkedIn profile will definitely go back home and do it today. And in fact, it is the need of the hour, as you have mentioned, that one has to be technology driven, and not having a social media profile can actually be a negative on your part for the prospective employers. So certainly having a LinkedIn profile is a must. Maybe if not a Twitter or an Instagram, but yes, LinkedIn is a must. Alka ma'am, you want to add something to it?
Absolute, like, golden nuggets that Ms. Meher mentioned of a LinkedIn, and I kind of completely go by it myself. Okay, taking my example, I don't post a lot, but trust me, in a day while walking or while and for me it's just work-life integration. I take my calls while I'm walking, and you have to build in a lot of your physical, mental health, everything. That's completely another domain of how you should be taking care of yourself and by the way, since we are talking about social media, if you are a fitness oriented person, that is a positive. So if you are posting pictures on how you're doing yoga, or how, if you are truly doing it, again, integrity, if you are actually into it, go ahead. That's a positive thing. Just to give you an example, you are an avid reader like Ms. Meher. Okay. If I go to her post and she has posted, these are the books I recommend, big plus, right? These are examples how recruiters, or say if Ms. Meher wants to go and see who the candidate that she's hiring, she will probably, okay, great. I mean, good reader, is into fitness. These are all pluses, right? So these are things that you could do. I personally learn a lot from LinkedIn because, like Ms. Meher said, people post. The people I follow, I see them in my feed. Amazing, amazing, just pictures and short bite-sized learning, very quick, like 1 minute, 2 minute. And LinkedIn has this wonderful aspect of 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute reads that people keep posting or sharing or forwarding. I learn a lot. Like, the social media day, for example, I didn't know, right? I saw that on LinkedIn. June 30th, 5 days away, we have the social media. How did it come about? Who did it? These are all things which help. And today I used it, right, in sharing. And I'm happy that it reached about 50 of us. Some of you might be knowing much more than I do, but at least for me, it was new learning. Right. So absolutely, I think very well said, Ms. Meher. LinkedIn is something I got into late. And I'm glad we are speaking to all 45 of you on this call. And I'm sure you will cascade it to your colleagues. Get on to LinkedIn. It's an amazing platform to learn and say about yourself. And just to add one bit again, which I mentioned earlier, we just don't self-market. There is a thin line of bragging and self-marketing yourself. Just maintain that balance that is required, because everybody is smart, everybody sees through a person. So again, apply common sense of what you are, who you are, and how much of something is too much. So you just need to have that balance in your mind. That's it, Dr. Femina.
Well said, Alka ma'am, and thank you so much for your valuable inputs. And I can see there are a lot of questions and queries coming, so I would request the student to send it to me personally on my WhatsApp number, and I can take it up with the panelists later on, and they'll try to answer your questions through emails. Maybe we can do that, or maybe we can have another panel discussion in continuation with this. But due to paucity of time, we cannot continue with question answer sessions. Another thing, Alkananda ma'am, I just want to ask you to sum up, like in one line, your message to the students, and later, Ms. Meher, you can also do the same.
Dr. Femina, I really wanted to say this. I think Lloyd, as an institute, does this social LinkedIn presence and social media marketing beautiful. I think all that I and Ms. Meher kind of said, I think the institute and sponsors, like, people like you who are a part of this esteemed organization, I think I follow Lloyd. I have a group of students who are in my mentorship circle from Lloyd. It is very nice to see how you kind of market what the institute stands for. So those are things, students on this call, you don't have to follow a lot many people to learn how to get onto LinkedIn and what not, and what to do and what not to do on LinkedIn. Just follow what your institute is doing. They have kind of got the hang of it. They are experts. So just see how Lloyd is posting information, following, liking, so do that. So I think that institutes like these and creating forums like these, Dr. Femina, I think it's a great start to get students or our prospective future corporate world really setting them up on the right path. So thank you to you, your team, and the entire institute for really setting the stage for the right kind of usage of social media. And my message, still learning. I'm a lifelong learner, so I don't want to sound like I've done it all and seen it all. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice to not do special social media. It is how well we do social media. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I am also learning, but whatever I've learned, I've tried to give it in these 1 hour bite-sized learning. But just again, I'll repeat what I said earlier. Don't do social media to impress, but to impact. That's my message. And it's been wonderful to be on this platform and to share stage with Miss esteemed personality like Miss Meher. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Your piece of advice, Meher ma'am, to our students.
Sure, I would second everything Miss Alka said. You know, the wonderful job Lloyd is doing, and I think there's a lot to learn from the way you guys do marketing on LinkedIn. You know, so professionally, so balanced, and not just the marketing on LinkedIn, but the kind of webinars that you're doing. And then I'm proud to be associated with Lloyd's on this one. It's really informative for the students, whether they are there for 1 year program or for a longer duration program, the kind of opportunities that you're providing through this industry interaction. This is the need of the hours, and I hope other institutes also follow Lloyd. My advice to the students hearing us on this session is that, you know, social media is a great tool. It doesn't matter LinkedIn or Facebook or Insta or any other thing. It's a great tool, but like any tool, it can give you good and it can also harm. So be judicious. Live your life, but live a high standard life. If you're doing that, you don't have to worry about anything. When you are a high integrity person, when you are a person who gives fair chance to everyone, your posts, your likings, your groups will reflect that. And that is what recruiters and employers are looking for. So go out there, live your good life, and stay connected with people who are going to give you a bump up or a push up on your professional career. So with that, best of luck to everyone. And thank you, Dr. Femina, for inviting me to be on this platform. And Ms. Alka, it was wonderful, very, very delighted to meet you here. And yes, I look forward to staying in connection with you.
Thank you so much for your piece of advice, Ms. Meher. So Lloyd, I would like to wrap up by telling a little bit about Lloyd, that Lloyd is an institute, as Alka ma'am has also put up and Meher ma'am has also put up, where we are trying to connect with the corporate so that the students can learn from their experiences and apply that when they go in the job. So it is an institute that constantly strives to achieve its objective of delivering quality education to the students while ensuring the professional development. I hope that this series of panel discussion on current management topics will help you all gain knowledge about the current requirements of the industry. The students, as very well said by our panelists today, should imbibe not only high on skill, but also high on will and right attitude. The professional environment is about work-life integration and not about work-life balance. And today it is kind of celebration of World Social Media Day on 30th June, as mentioned by Alka ma'am. So I would like to thank on behalf of Lloyd Business School, Ms. Alkananda Misra and Ms. Meher Zahi for taking out time from their busy schedules and guiding the students into the key aspects of handling social media responsibly. Thank you so much, everyone.